Happy holidays, everyone. I want to thank everybody who's tuned in the last 2 episodes. It's been the best gift for Christmas I could ever imagine. All the positive and uplifting comments and feedback has just been, it's been great. I want to thank everybody. You know, if you haven't watched the last 2, go back, go watch them. They're pretty cool. And we have so many more fun and interesting episodes to look forward to in the new year. New Year's Day, I have a new episode for you. We're gonna flip this boat. So I want to wish you and your family a happy holidays, the warmest season's greetings, and let's cheers to a new year. Last episode, we prepped the hull, built an extension mold, and fiberglassed over it. This episode, we do a lot of fairing, even more sanding. We built a hard chine and the sides, and multiple coats of paint. This is Rebuild Projects. So I removed that last layer of peel ply and it cured really well, exactly what I wanted. Now the strakes weren't perfect because I was trying to take that chop mat and curl it around such a sharp angle that it didn't have any air bubbles, but it wasn't a crisp angle for me. So what I did then was I mixed up some fairing compound. Now I have 2 different types here. I have more of a glaze that if there were any depressions, any concave in my mold here, in my extension, I just glazed over that to try to get as fair a line as I possibly can. And then I mixed up a thicker fairing compound. Both the same, but I actually put a little bit of talc in there, and I added a little bit more of the activator or the second compound. And you have to work a little bit faster with that, but I was able to really pile it on the strakes here, knowing that I'm going to sand everything back. Because what I'm going for is I want a continuation of the old strakes, and I want to continue this true line all the way down and this profile, and I can always sand it back to this profile. It's a lot harder having to build up multiple layers, so I really caked it on. But to get that true line, you kind of sometimes have to build your own tools. And in this case, I'm going to build a longboard sander, but I want to build it super long. So this is for almost 4 feet. It's just an extra piece of melamine that I had from building the mold, but it just happens to be the perfect width and length that I'm looking for. And I'll be able to take this and put some sandpaper with some adhesive on the piece here, and when I sand down this line, I can ride the old strake rail and the back tip, and I can kind of just work in that beautiful line on all the different strakes on both sides of the boat. And then I can come back and do some finer sanding later on and then work on that profile. So how I'm going to do this is I've got this piece of melamine. I have some old handrail. I'm going to cut that in half to make 2 handles to allow me to get some action going. And then I just happen to have a belt sander here for woodwork, and I was able to take one of the belts, open it up, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a piece of this out, take some spray adhesive, glue it on there. I'm going to leave it a little wide so I can curl up one edge, and hopefully I can get 2 profiles sanded at the same time. It's going to take my grandpa's old angle finder. I think this thing is 1950s at least, and I'm going to find the angle to the best of my ability right here and up here, and I'm going to transfer this to my table saw. And then I'm gonna cut the profile along here. And that'll allow me to ride two edges while I'm sanding at the same time with the sandpaper. At least that's the plan. Let's see if I can do it. So that's one side done to about 90%. I've been able to continue those lines from the strakes like I was talking about, and pretty much get them in a good angle and shape like the originals. I'm gonna have to fill again because the leading edge of the strakes here don't have enough filler. So I'm gonna come back, put a little acetone on it, and then mix up some filler and just get this leading edge. And then come back tomorrow by hand and just do a nice light sand and try to make that line as crisp as possible. As well as I'm gonna take a straight edge and just see if where any of the divots are, mark them with a pencil, and I'll mix up some more fairing and I'll put it in those spots. So that's about an hour and a half of sanding just for this half. I'll get to the next side and then get back to you. Now, quick tip, when you're mixing up some polyester resin and fillers to make your own fairing or body filler or whatever you want, the Cabasil is super light. It's like a silica, and you want to wear a mask because once it gets in the air, it can get right into your lungs. As well as any of the glass bubbles are very light, but it's really hard to mix them in, and to mix them by hand. I've watched other guys who are, really, really smart. They like create a cardboard box and they put a vacuum, and it tries to keep all the airborne, silica down as they're mixing by hand. So I do that, but I've found that if you take, well, first off, I like using liners that are you could just chuck out. I love these. I think you can get these at most of your big box stores. I poke a little hole in a lid and I slide this guy through. And then when I do all my mixing, I just hold this lid down, attach it to the drill. Because the hardest part of when you're mixing a fairing or a filler is you need to incorporate all that dry airborne stuff into the polyester resin, and until you get to that sweet spot where it's all mixing in homogeneously, it's a bit of a bitch. So I keep this, I put my hand on it, I use the power drill. It takes a lot less time when you're drilling, using your drill. And then finally, when it all starts mixing in, you can worry about the consistency at that point. Take your lid off, get your final consistency, add a little more resin or a little more fillers depending on what kind of thickness you're looking at, peanut butter or even thicker. Yeah, it really depends on what you're doing. So that's what I do. I use a bucket, a liner, get myself a little mixer, drill a hole in the lid. Bob's your uncle.
Santa Claus pulled up, come get the loot. You better been watching what you do. None of that list you got, they gon' come true. You been good, haven't you? Santa Claus pulled up, come get the loot. You better been watching what you do. None of that list you got, they gon' come true. You been good, haven't you? I'm not trying to put demons in your mind. I just wanna wish you a good night. Hope you get the cream with the pie. And what's under the tree, hit your vibe. Couple of G's, couple of tries, couple of T's that you gon' be and we're getting your C's. You with the right and I took it too far. Look like a fool, even the mom. Whoa, look like a kid with the heart that's lit. Santa's bringing all he can fit. You did your part, he doing his. Yeah, like I'm the superintendent of this facility. I get the people what they want with agility. Yes, moving quickly, past ups and my enemies. They just 5 legends, but they all real of me. Trust me, I'm about to get you hooked up. I'ma get your jealous friends crying. On my R&B shift, I'ma get your Christmas vibing. Santa Claus pulled up, come get the loot. You better been watching what you do. None of that list you got, they gon' go through. Like you been good, haven't you? Santa Claus pulled up, come get the loot. You better been watching what you do. None of that list you got, they gon' go through. You been good, haven't you? My eyes started stream from the offset. Between the wants and the needs, I don't process. Like they talking French when they say son got nothing. I cannot comprehend how we gave up on justice. Leaving feeling beaten down, all left behind on this holy night. Least we can do is try to make things right. Trust me, I'm about to get you hooked up. I'ma get your jealous friends crying. On my R&B shift, I'ma get your Christmas vibing. Santa Claus pulled up, come get the loot. You better been watching what you do. None of that list you got, they gon' go through. Like you been good, haven't you? Santa Claus pulled up, come get the loot. You better been watching what you do. None of that list you got, they gon' go through. You been good, haven't you?
So when you're thinking about different materials to use for a boat build and you don't have a lot of money, or maybe the most expensive materials are just not available in your area, I like thinking outside of the box. So when it comes to any wood-like material, I don't necessarily like using marine ply. My view is that the marine ply is usually what's rotten and I'm taking out of the boat as it is. You know, even though it may be 20 years old or whatnot. But I don't want to, you know, introduce that again. So ideally, you could use like a Kuza board. Kuza board's a composite board, comes in sheets, like 4x8 sheets usually, different thicknesses. But it's super expensive. In my area, if you can even get it, it's $400 or $500 for a 3/4 inch thickness by 4x8. More like 5 with tax, maybe $550. But then you got to get it shipped here because you can't find it anywhere. So on a small project like mine, where my boat's only $2,000, it doesn't pay to spend half of that in some sort of fancy composite. But on the market, there are composites that are used in different industries. So I have found, by going onto the Kuza website, and you can check out the MSDS or the material safety data sheets that the company provides, and they kind of give you insight into the ingredients or the special sauce they use in their boards. And it is very close to a lot of the outdoor composite deck boards. Now, you want to find a deck board that is higher plastic than it is wood ratio, and a lot of them now go 80-20. You can get a lot of like 80% plastics and binders and then 20% wood. And then you want to find one that's fully solid and has a profile that's, you know, fully thick. So this is like 1 inch thick. It's got a slight profile for the screws to go into on the sides or the clips. But all in all, it's a thick, homogeneous, you know, composite material. It cuts like wood, which is amazing. And, you know, just through testing this myself on my deck, I know that this product has lasted, and you can get this product, you know, every day at your big box stores. This specific brand hasn't changed in, you know, years and years and years of testing it outside in contact with water every day. So what I do is I cut off these little flanges on the outside, I square everything up. I usually can get a 2 inch by 2 inch long piece. These boards come in 6 inches wide, 5.5 to 6 inches by 16-foot lengths for $50, so it's pretty affordable. And then when I need a thicker profile, I just epoxy 2 of these pieces together, and the epoxying gives me a nice seam at the end of the day. You could hardly tell that that was epoxied. Now this, I've cut the profile for my chine, but when I need something that I want to act like wood, I think will outlast wood, but I don't want to spend a huge amount of money on like a Kuza board, I find a really good high plastic content decking board, composite decking, and yeah, and then I cut it up and I use it for whatever dimensional lumber that I need, whether it be the interior of the boat. Sometimes I've even used it where I've cut a tongue and groove in it, and I've cut 3 or 4 pieces and glued them up, and that becomes the back of my transom, or is at least in the sandwich, because when you drill through this, it won't rot like you would if you were drilling into your transom, especially for your mounting bolts for your outboard. So it's just another idea that I had. It works for me, and you know, give it a try. It may work for you too. So with any of these projects, you have your general overall concept. You have a picture, hopefully. It's a great goal to shoot for. But in the process of getting there, there's a lot of decisions that have to be made, whether it be the materials you need to use to get that final vision complete. I'm at the stage right now where I have an opportunity to modify the boat exactly what I want. A safe boat, but I want a little bit more performance. And part of that performance isn't necessarily just about speed, but it's about the ability for the boat to track well. That's why I'm keeping these strakes nice and straight and fair. But it's also, when the boat is at rest, these smaller boats have a tendency to rock, and not just because of the motion of the waves or whatever the ocean state that you're sitting in, but because the slipperiness of the boat hull. If you had a perfectly round boat hull, it would just it would want to rotate like a sphere in the water. And because these don't have a keel, you need some sort of ability to keep the slipperiness in the water. So chines are a modern, you know, any new boat has chines, and the newest aluminum hulled boats have beautifully large 4-6 inch chines, hard chines. And that's the point. The chine is the part where the bottom of the hull intersects with the side. And in modern boats, they have reverse chines. So the chines on this boat are only maybe 1.5 to 2 inches. I need them to be bigger so I can add on to the chine. And there's multiple different ways of doing it. but I want to build those chines out to about 4 inches. I think anything more than 4 inches would be a little ridiculous for this boat, but I want to take my 1.5 to 2 inch chines and make it about 3.5 to 4 inches, but tapering from where they're at right now up to about 4 inches in the back. But the question is, how do you tie that into the side? So that's where we're going to go today. So adding this new chine to the boat has a cascading effect. The performance and the stability may go up, but then there's how do you tie it into the side of the boat. I was already going to take this side and raise it by, you know, between 10 and 12 inches to get the gunnel height higher. And originally I was just thinking of sanding down the side, adding new side to the boat, tying it in, you know, adding layers of fiberglass and tying it in and getting the 10 or 12 inches that way. But in doing that now, I have a gap here that I kind of got to make up. So the question is, do I make it up by just creating a little wedge and fairing it into here? Or do I do something a little more unique maybe and add a layer of foam and create like a fiberglass foam composite sandwich? So that's where I take foam, I adhere it I sand it down, I adhere it to the old sides to fill up the gap, do a little bit of fairing. This would continue all the way up the sides, and then I add a layer of fiberglass, so chop mat 1708, and then chop mat again to tie it all in. And now I've got like a fiberglass foam composite sandwich. I think the downsides automatically may be the weight. I'm adding more fiberglass and resin and a little bit of foam to the whole situation. So that I'm definitely gonna weigh and measure so I know how much I'm adding to the boat. I already knew where the boat started with its weight. But the pros could possibly be it just adds a layer of armor. So this is already a sound hull, and then with fiberglassing some foam and 2 or 3 new layers of fiberglass over top of it, I'm just creating an extra layer of improved strength and durability. I could look at it that way. I don't know, I think this is the way I'm gonna go. And it's all very much an experiment. It's something I've never done before. I've never seen it done on all of the YouTube channels and the forums and everything. I've seen people add aluminum chines to an aluminum boat, and that's simply, you know, creating a new angle and welding it on. I've seen big boats, you know, 30-foot boats that add, you know, a water strake or a chine for wave break. But I haven't seen anybody do it to a smaller fiberglass boat. Maybe there's a reason. Only time will tell. So yeah, fiberglass sandwich all along here. Now I took that foam board, I applied multi-surface primer on both sides and I let it dry. And then I came in last night and I took the dried foam board, I mixed up some mastic, which is I get in the 5-gallon buckets. It's an epoxy mastic polyester based. And then I troweled it on not only the sides of the boat, but I also troweled it on one side of the foam. I then applied it to the sides, and then I took some 1x3 strapping. I had pre-drilled some holes in it and took some washers and screws and screwed it to the old hull side. It's really the only way I could figure out to clamp it on there and get a nice tight bond, because I did 3 battens down the side, and it allowed me to really suck it in there, get a good contact, It's not coming off now. I will fill all those holes down the road. I mean, on one side, I'm gonna glass over everything now and I'll fill all the holes in the foam. On the inside, any of the protrusions from the screws, I'm gonna do a full glass over there as well and fill any holes. So everything will once again become perfectly waterproof and sound. Now, before I can do the 3 layers of fiberglass, I need to just kind of ease the transition from the new chine down the sides. And I'm gonna do that by mixing up some polyester resin with some Cabasil and a little talc, creating my own, filler or Bondo. I might throw some glass bubbles in there for make it easier to sand. And then I'm just gonna float the gap between the two, and using, one of these automotive squeegees gives me the ability to make a little bit of a curve and really get in there and make a nice transition. I'll let that dry, and then I can start doing the 3 layers of fiberglass.
Oh, Christmas tree, oh, Christmas tree, thy leaves are so unchanging. Oh, Christmas tree, oh, Christmas tree, thy leaves are so unchanging. Not only green when summer's here, but also when it's cold and drear. Oh, Christmas tree, oh, Christmas tree, such pleasure do you bring me.
So it's that fun part where you just continue the sanding process. And for me, I try to get at least 2, maybe 3 coats of sanding in the day. And I start off by locking my last layer of filler. Once it's sanded, I lock it in place by putting some, a coat of primer on top of it. And then that primer coat, once that's dry, I'm able to come back, take my light, and I go over all different areas. You can see I highlight them with a pen. And then I come back with a skim coat of fairing. And now that skim coat of fairing, I dilute it just a little bit with styrene monomer. Because I'm using a polyester-based fairing compound, you just thin it out just enough so that it just makes it go from peanut butter almost to like ketchup in its consistency. And that really helps. One, it wants to flash off, and you're able to have a quicker drying time. And 2, it's just that much easier to spread, and it won't catalyze as quickly. And that way you can get multiple coats done in one day. So that's a little trick I use, but I also use the other trick where this primer color is slightly different than this primer color here, or the white primer. It's all the same primer that I'm using. And then I use these color pigments. It's the same color pigments I use when I'm tinting a gel coat, whether I'm trying to match an old gel coat or I just want to create my own blend. And they're really great. You don't need much, but you just throw it in with your primer or you throw it in with your fairing, and it gives that last coat a slightly different color than the one before. So I know A, what stage I'm on, and B, I know what areas that I've hit before and if I go down below an area. But usually by locking it in with the primer in, you're fairing in by the last primer coat, it does a great job of then isolating whatever imperfections there are on that round. I know it's a pretty convoluted, but essentially I'm gonna do 2 or 3 more rounds of sanding, priming it out, and then if I notice any more, and you just get less and less little dents and divots and little mistakes, little imperfections, till a point where you just call it, because it is the bottom of a boat. And I'm almost there. I'm almost gonna call it. Once I've done that, the whole thing is gonna get 1 last coat of primer, and then it's gonna get 3 coats of bottom paint.
Hurry, hurry, Mama's looking worried. Will the pie be ready in time? Papa's out getting a tree while my sister and me are writing verses and rhymes. Soon they will be here, same as every year. Everyone wants home for Christmas. No matter if it's near or far, everyone wants home for Christmas. Wherever in the world they are, one after the other, knocking at the door. Here everybody's welcome, the rich and the poor.
So, yes, this is the top coat finished. That's 2 layers of gel coat unwaxed, the top layer waxed, and I think short of buffing the whole thing out, I think this gel coat additive that I think it's called Duratec that I used gives a high enough gloss for me. I think it turned out well. What do you think? Now, it's not a factory finish. If I wanted to go for a factory finish, I probably should have sprayed multiple layers, but I've never sprayed gel coat on this big of a scale before. I've done small patches for repairs. You know, and the whole process would maybe require a bigger shop and better ventilation. I know my compressor could handle it, but could I handle it? I don't know. So I rolled it, and when you roll gel coat, I'm learning, in between each layer, you're gonna get orange peel and a few sags, and you're gonna get, you know, uneven application. But if you can live with it, and I can live with it, I think I can live with it because, one, I know the 3 layers of gel coat that I did put on have cured really well, and they're thick. So, a lot thicker than if I sprayed it. If this boat ever sees the ocean for more than a day or 2 on a little excursion, then I'm probably gonna put some anti-fouling on it anyways. So it kind of loses the whole point of being laser straight. Well, it is laser straight, but it's just not factory perfect. Other than that, I'm very happy. I'm happy enough to move on to the next stage, which is flipping this boat over, which we're gonna use the winch again. I have a center point that's braced on both sides and tied in with wood. We're gonna put the swiveling eye hook there and figure a way of flipping this over without doing any damage to the new extension. It would kill me if there was a crack due to flex, even though I've put so many layers and strakes and chines to keep it nice and tight. you just never know. So that's going to be the next episode. And then once it's flipped over, we're going to start fiberglassing and tabbing and strengthening from the inside this extension to the old hull, just giving it that extra strength. We're going to find a top cap for it, and then build up a bit of a bracket out of fiberglass and probably composite board, something to hang the outboard on. All of that will be the next few episodes, and then we're going to work on the sides, and then we're going to take the boat out, bring it back around so that the bow is up here at the workstation, and start working on that bow raise. Things are going to start moving on. So the next few episodes are going to be a lot of fun. So I appreciate you guys for tuning in, and I'm going to need your help. You're going to need your positive vibes for flipping this thing over. It could get a little hairy. I'm going to bring in a little help, and we're going to do it. We're going to get this thing flipped over without any damage. So yeah, top coat done. Let's move on. Next episode, we flip the boat back over. We start strengthening the inside of the mold. We attach the new bracket. We beef up the transom. And we really start turning it into a Euro-style extension. Join me for New Year's edition of Rebuild Projects.
See you next year.